Hello again. Welcome back to the My Unity5 Terrain series. Uh, this is the third video in the series. I'm sorry about not putting one out sooner, but life has been interesting lately and I haven't been able to do it. So sorry for the wait. So what I'm working on is the land terrain that I had come up with, or the land shapes. Over here I have named all of my layers. So what we're looking at making is not a normal map, a height map. A height map works by color, basically. Black being the lowest and white being the highest. And then all your shades of gray in between. So these are normally just gray images. So what I'm going to start with first is I want to come over here and select all of my islands. And I'm going to do that by left clicking to get started here, then hold down Control and go down and left click until you've selected all of them. I'm not going to bother with the background because it can't be grouped as long as it's locked like this. That's what this little symbol means. And really it's just not important at this point. So now I'm going to group all of these together. I'll hold down Control and press G, and that puts them all into a group. I'm going to call this original. And now I have a nice clean copy of all of my land shapes. Okay, so now I'm going to duplicate group. This I'm just going to call land shapes. And what I'm going to do is open this up. Oops. I'm going to select all of these again by holding Control as I left click on them. And I am going to merge layers. Now that has turned all of these into one layer. So right now I'm going to turn that off just so you can see. You can turn on visibility just by clicking on the little eyeballs next to it. In our case, because it's in a group, it will hide all of them. So I can do that and hide the whole group. So what I've done is, because all these are individual, turn them on, I'm going to hide those, and what I've done is merged all of these ones together. So now it's just one layer that I have to deal with, and if I want to change something, I can go back through this process and move these around the way I want them, and I still have a copy of them, so I don't have to completely redo all my work. These groups, the way that I'm using them is simply for organization. As you get farther along with Photoshop, you will find that groups are useful for more than just organization. You can apply effects to groups of things and have it go over the entire group instead of just an individual layer. Anyways, maybe later we'll get into showing you all that. Now this one here has a lock on it. So to take care of the lock, double click with your left button on your mouse and it'll open this up. I'm just going to rename it the same. Hit OK, and now that's gone. So now I can put this wherever I want. I can put it into a group or just leave it where it is, which is what I'm going to do for right now. Now, next thing I am going to do is, because this is a height map and I only have black and white, I've got the two extremes. This is sheer cliff along all of these edges. And just like in real life, that's not going to happen everywhere. So we want to eliminate that, especially because if you're sitting there playing a game, you've got your character walking around here and he falls off the edge or is pushed off or something. He'd have no chance at all of getting back up onto the land, because unless you've come up with a lot of very particular coding to be able to make your character climb up cliffs, it's just not going to happen. So to make it more realistic in any case, I am going to go make a new layer, and I'll call this height map background. I'm gonna hide this, and right now this is all invisible. So what I've got here is a color that is not black, but it's not white either. It's still fairly close to the black range, so it can be deep. So just select a nice deep color, but not black, within a grayscale, that is. Come up, there's your bucket tool, click on that. Make sure that you have this new layer selected, and go ahead and paint it. Okay, now the other thing is we're still looking at the extremes on the top levels. I'm just going to pull this up into the land shapes. Now the thing about that, I'm going to come over to the magic wand. Come up here and you'll see some different settings, and this will allow me to select not just one, but 2 or 3 or however many pieces that I want. So what I'm going to do is I am going to set this, after I select them all, to a color that's not white. In my case, I'll be flipping this. That's not white, but it's darker than my background. Now in my case, I will eventually want this so that it's deep enough that I can have cities and stuff under my water, or some of the quests in mine will be underwater, so I need a bit of variation between the bottom and the main height of the land, the sea level. So I'm going to go ahead and change my color here. Now I will go back to my paint and come in here and color all of my land. Now I'm going to deselect. Now you can see that there's still some white along the edges here, and what that's going to do is make it so that this section of the land is lower, and it would be kind of like having a wall all the way around you, which isn't really what we want. So I'm going to hit Control Z, and that will bring back my selection, and I'm going to paint all of these again. Okay, deselect. And that should have gotten rid of most of them. Okay. I always forget to save when I'm doing this kind of thing, which is rather funny since when I code or something like that, I'm constantly saving. I don't like losing my work. Okay, so now these are just the two things that make all of this up. Now, again, I'm going to hit... Well, actually, I'm going to come up and I am going to go make a new layer. Now I'm going to make sure I'm on my... I'm going to rename this to all land. But I am going to take and select this so that I have access to the things on this layer. And I'm going to come through and select those again. Then I am going to select this new layer. And what I'm going to do is I am going to start making my mountain ranges. I come up here and I'm going to go down to render clouds. I can even do render cloud, render difference clouds. It doesn't matter too much, but right now I'm going with render clouds. And once you've done it once, you can just come down. Like, I don't really like the way this one's looking right now. Oh, part of the reason for that is I'm going to flip this right here. That flips your foreground and background color. What I've done, because I didn't change things straight off, was it's using this dark color, so down here, and my light color as the higher points. So right now I've actually caused everything to kind of sync because I use this color as the background. What I want to do is, let me back up here. I've got this color here. I want it on the bottom. This color here, I want to change back to white, because those are going to represent all of my high points of the mountains. Now, I'll go up to filter. You can go down to render and do clouds. Now you'll see there's quite a lot of difference, but my lowest color isn't going to be horribly low. I don't really like the way that looks, so I'm going to go down again to the over to filter, and now I don't have to go down here to render anymore. I can just click up here on clouds and it'll go through a few series. So I can sit here and really look at something that I like. I kind of like that this cuts things off. It's a bit darker, obviously. Now, so those are my lower points, and I kind of like the little hook it has in here. I like that this isn't particularly straight. So this will work for me for right now. Now on my little islands, I'm going to have to go through and edit anyways. So again, these are no big deal. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I don't really need this color here right now. But I'm going to go ahead and get rid of my background color. So I just have these two selected, again, by holding Control. And I am going to duplicate these layers. And they'll call them copy 1 and my all land copy. I'm going to hide these. Now I'm going to take this and I'm going to play with the opacity a little, because we have a darker color under here. And as you turn up your opacity, you can kind of control the heights a little. So I'm going to put mine at about 50%. And then I am going to take these two and I'm going to turn them into one layer. let's see, by merge layer. Again, these two I'm using so I don't have to go back if I screw up part of this. Let's see here. So now I have my base color still up here. I can come up and hit the little switch here, and that'll switch it over. And I'm going to come over to paint, or to my paintbrush. This is this will be good enough for right now. I'm just roughing some things in. You'll notice my opacity here is going to be 30 or lower. So I think I'll just set it for 30 for right now. All right, 29. And I'm going to come paint over the top. And you'll notice it's getting a little darker, but I haven't lost all of my texture under it either. So I'm going to turn this considerably flatter. Sitting here, I'm gonna add a little where it wasn't before. Let's see. Let's go ahead and clear off part of my coastline here. And then I'll come over here. This is a low point, so I'll go ahead and start there. We'll have a lot more of that part. In my case, I want a big section of this that's flat. Anyways, you play around and flatten the areas that you would like, the more playable areas, and these sections that I'm leaving alone are essentially just going to be the mountains. And doing it this way with your opacity down makes it so that the mountains don't just all of a sudden spring up. You've just kind of toned some of the shapes in the cloud down some. I mean, if you really look close, you'll notice that these still aren't flat. Now I can make it flat like I did up here, but I don't have to, and what that does is kind of makes more of a rolling hill effect before you get into the mountains themselves. Oh, and if you don't know Photoshop very well yet, to zoom in like I just did is holding Control while hitting the plus sign, and to zoom out it's Control minus. So anyways, go ahead and go through and make your design the way that you'd like, as far as you're just adding in your flatlands on this. One thing you will notice is, like over here, I left mountain, and I'm doing that for a reason. This part is going to be cliff. But just kind of have an idea of how you'd like to set up your more flat lands. If you need to make these sections flatter, like for farm area, something like that, then you can just go over it more, keep the opacity the same, but you just keep going over it, and the more solid that color will be in those areas. But again, the more realistic it is, because you're not always just dealing with cliffs. So, anyways, you know what you want for your land, the way you want it to look. So go through, play with this type of thing for a bit, and you'll be able to get kind of an idea of what your land looks like. Because obviously in mine, see down here, in my game, most of this is actually going to be a desert area. Across here, is a mountain range that I can't quite pass, but over here is going to be a lot of farm area. Because in my game, they're going to have to come from this area where they land first to coming over here. So, I mean, land shape in my particular game is kind of a detrimental part story-wise. So, think about these things as you are going through and making your land. And, you know, try things over and do different versions of it. Before I had done all of this, see, I have this oops, I have this saved down here, so I can sit here and go through and do this process over and over again, come up with all sorts of different ways that I like, and then I can make a final decision on which one did I want, and it's all good. Don't forget, you may want to change your brush sizes, like maybe through here. I just want a channel that goes from one section to another. Doesn't mean that I have to make it as dark as I did. This is going to be one of those things, like I said, that you just experiment with. So why don't you go ahead and give this a try and see what you come up with. I think you'll be fairly surprised on the new thoughts that hit your head as you're thinking through your storylines and what you need to happen in your game. Because, for instance, if I have a city over here and I have a city over here, think of the time that it would take to get food from over here all the way around because there's bandits or something clogging this area up. Maybe this is just a death trap if you happen to go through it. Anyways, it can help a lot with coming up with your side quests, even your main quest. So keep your mind open while you're doing this and have fun. I will talk with you next time.